A very unusual fossil was brought to Dr. Buckland. This was a reptilian in nature, but it was huge, about 8 inches long, with flesh-eating teeth, and he was mystified as to what that could be. Eventually, he referred to it as the great reptile of Stonesfield, but it had to be better described than that. And so after careful looking at that fossil, plus a few more that had been developed, Dr. Buckland came to the conclusion that this was some prehistoric animal, reptilian in nature, and he gave it an official name, an official description called Megalosaurus, meaning great lizard. Other people who were collecting fossils, such as Gideon Mantell, the medical doctor, found many significant fossils also. And the story is told when he and his wife were out calling on one of their patients. Mary found a fossil in a gravel that had been brought in from a fresh quarry. And what she found was the fossilized teeth of some unknown prehistoric animal. Gideon Mantell was very interested in this. He thought this was a unique creature that had not been known. But when he showed these fossils to his fellow scientists, they kind of poo-pooed this and said it was probably just a giant ancient fish. Well, he was not content with that, and so he took his fossilized teeth to the Hunterian Museum in England, in London, and began pulling out the drawers to see what jaw these teeth might fit. And after a long time of doing this, he did not have any success, and this was rather discouraging. Eventually, however, he met a young man who had been studying in Central America. And when he told him his story, the young man said, well, let me take a look at those teeth. And when he did, he said immediately, sir, those look exactly like the teeth of our iguana lizard in Central America. So that did it. Dr. Mantell knew then that he had found the remains of a unique giant reptile, and he named it after the iguana lizard. He named it Iguanodon. After that, other fossils were found of this creature, and he has become a well-known dinosaur today. Iguanodon, of course, means iguana tooth. After that, Dinosaurs was found, and other of these creatures, such as Polycanthus and Hylaeosaurus. And so the scientific community began to realize these are unique and they need to be classified. So they turned them over to Dr. Richard Owen. And Dr. Richard Owen was England's leading anatomist. And he compared them with the bones of reptiles that died in the zoo. And of course, he concluded that they were of the class Reptilia, but what order? He knew, for instance, they did not fit into the order of lizards. They didn't fit into the order of turtles, nor did they fit into the order of serpents, nor to the order of crocodiles. So Dr. Owen had to develop an entire new order for these particular reptiles. And in 1842, he is the one that gave them the new name Dinosauria, meaning terrible lizards. For years and years after this, in England as well as in Western Europe and then finally the United States, paleontologists began finding these unique creatures, which they called then dinosaurs. And in fact, the United States became one of the main hunting grounds for these. But for years and years, the only people who really gave them much interest were the people who might be living near a large museum in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago, and most of the people paid them little mind. But in the 1970s, 1980s, certain books were written that were colorful and appealed to young people. And all of a sudden, a great interest developed in the world of dinosaurs. And now throughout the world, we see these beautiful wall drawings, such as in Alberta here, of dinosaurs. We see dinosaur statues in parks, and we have hundreds and hundreds of toys that children can play with, and also many books. Now these books are colorful, they're interesting, and they are enjoyable, but most of them contain two statements which are antagonistic to the Genesis account of creation, as well as actually to the facts of science. And these two statements are as follows. They say, number one, the dinosaurs are the results of a long evolutionary process over millions of years, that they developed from lower thecodont reptiles. And they say that dinosaurs lived millions of years ago and never lived within the lifetime of human beings. So what we want to do today is take a look at the real history of dinosaurs, and we'll find that these two statements are incorrect. To start, we will begin in the book of Genesis, which is the best book we have about life in the early earth. And there we read, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. This means that God is the source of the mass, space, time continuum, the material world. And in the first chapter of Genesis, God tells us the order of his creation on the third day that included 3 megagroups of plants, grasses, herbs, and trees. And then he gives us, after this, the 6 megagroups of the animal world. They begin, of course, in Genesis 1:25, and God made the beast of the earth after his kind. Now this includes the wild animals of the forest, large as well as the small ones, and of the jungle too, such as monkeys and apes and different kinds of creatures from the wild.